Update. Am I the a-hole for calling off my wedding after finding out my fiancé never had the money he promised to contribute? Original post. I, 33 female, have been with my partner, 32 male, for 5 years. He proposed in March 2024, and we agreed to get married in December 2025. He promised to cover 70% of the wedding costs and said he'd transfer money to my account whenever I paid for something. I ended up handling all the planning and bookings. By April this year, I had already paid around 500,000 local currency. But when I checked, he hadn't sent me a single cent. I kept reminding him, and he always said, "Yes, baby," after work. I work in an accounting firm with over 40 clients, so I'm insanely busy and didn't have time to double-check every day. But I trusted him. When we finally sat down to talk about it, I found out he didn't actually have the money. He planned to ask his parents or use future income, meaning he had been lying about having savings. All this time, he bragged about being financially stable and successful. He's a lawyer, but apparently it was all talk. I understand that people can go through tough financial times, but lying about it and letting me carry all the burden, that felt like a betrayal. I decided to call off the wedding and the relationship. Now he's throwing the wedding expenses in my face, even though I did all the work. My parents think I should go through with it since the engagement has already been announced to family. Am I the a-hole for calling it off? I feel heartbroken, used, and honestly, fooled. And seriously, if you can't afford to get married, why propose in the first place? Now for the top comments before reading the update. You didn't call off a wedding, you canceled a subscription to nonsense. Good for you. Thanks, that honestly made me laugh. I needed to hear that. Calling off the wedding was a sensible and self-respecting decision. You deserve a partner who is honest and reliable, especially when it comes to finances. Not the a-hole, but to be clear, this is about the lying and betrayal, not necessarily about the money. Yeah, it's the dishonesty that broke me, not just the lack of money. If he had been upfront, things might have been different. Thank God you found this out before you got married. As they say, money problems don't start with money. What if this had been your mortgage payment or school fees? Those aren't optional expenses, and there can be huge repercussions for non-payment. I say good on you for holding your boundary. Also, don't fall for the sunk cost fallacy. Yes, you announced it to family, but if they love you, they'll support you. Better to be a little embarrassed now than waste more time and have to pay for a divorce attorney and separate assets later. Because you already announced it is among the worst reasons to go through with a marriage. I'd rather save my future than to save face, Limao. You don't commit to someone because of what your parents, relatives, or friends expect. You commit because you trust the person, and he broke that trust. For real, if trust is broken before the marriage, what more after? Not worth the risk. And to be honest, it's really non-negotiable for me. Now for the update. Hi everyone, thank you so much for the support. I didn't expect my post to get much attention, but reading your responses helped me feel less alone and more validated in what I was feeling. It's been a week since I called everything off. He's been texting and calling non-stop, flip-flopping between apologizing and guilt-tripping me. At one point he said, "We can still fix this, it's just money." But it was never just about the money. It was the lying, the manipulation, the months of pretending to be someone he wasn't, and letting me drown financially and emotionally, while he played the role of the dependable fiancé. I'm staying with a close friend for now while I sort things out. I've cried more than I thought possible, but each day I feel a little lighter. The fog is lifting. His family finally reached out, trying to mediate. His mom even asked if we could just scale down the wedding instead of canceling it. I told them very calmly that there is no wedding to scale down. I'm done, and I mean it. I've also started looking through everything I paid for, checking which vendors I can cancel or get partial refunds from. It sucks, not gonna lie, but I'd rather lose money than lose myself in a marriage built on lies. My parents are slowly coming around. My dad said something last night that really hit me. It's better to disappoint people for a moment than to disappoint yourself for a lifetime. I don't know what comes next, but I know what I left behind, and I know it was the right thing to do. Thank you so much again. You really helped me a lot. Not the a-hole. It's crazy. You're righting a wrong that could have defined your future, not just some minor hiccup. It takes a lot of courage to walk away from something that isn't right. Exactly, and it's normal to cry and grieve the loss of the relationship and the future you thought you had, but those tears are part of the healing process. You walked away not just from a wedding, but from a future where you would have been the only one showing up, financially and emotionally. That's not a partnership. That's a slow erasure of your peace, your dignity, and your sense of self. And you said no to that, loudly, clearly, without apology. Exactly this. She didn't just cancel a wedding, she saved herself from a lifetime of being taken for granted. That kind of strength deserves nothing but respect. My parents are slowly coming around. Good, because this was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. My parents think I should go through with it, since the engagement has already been announced to family. I so totally agree. Been in a situation where I married partly out of pressure by family to go through with it when I doubted and wanted out. It never works, because then you're not really marrying your partner out of love. You're marrying to please someone else. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother's girlfriend she can't expect me to treat her kids like I treat mine, and that she is not entitled to anything from us? I, 32 female, have 2 sons with my husband, a 10-month-old and a 3-year-old. I obviously love my kids, but I don't really like other kids, especially kids I don't know well. I am just not the maternal type that will want to interact with other kids, or find them cute or whatever. My brother has been dating his girlfriend Natalie, 31 female, and she has 2 kids as well, a 7-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl. When we first met Natalie, she seemed excited that I have kids and started planning how our kids would bond and play together. This did not happen, and the main reason is the age difference. Again, my kids are 3 years old and 10 months. I don't know how she imagined that her 7-year-old would bond so well with a baby or someone 4 years younger than him. Her 5-year-old daughter is a different situation. She is very rowdy, so my oldest avoids her at all costs when we meet during family functions or whatever. Despite our kids clearly not blending well, I would say we were nice towards Natalie and her kids. Last Christmas, for example, the first Christmas since they got together, we gave gifts to her kids when we met at my parents' place for dinner, and I thought that was enough. However, Natalie decided to confront me on things I apparently did wrong and hurt her feelings. She mentioned, I do not show a special interest in her kids, who will potentially become my niece and nephew in the future. I refuse to have her kids over at my place for playdates without her being present. To be clear, I am okay with hosting her, my brother, and her kids for dinner or something. I refuse to make my son like her daughter. I am cold towards her kids. I explained to her that I can't and will not force my kid to play or be friends with anyone. I also said that I am not comfortable having her kids in my house without her present. I do not know her kids that well. I have no idea how they behave outside of the few family settings that we have all attended, and I don't want to be responsible for 2 stranger kids in my house. On the coldness side, I explained to her that I am not cold on purpose, but this is how I am as a person. I am not a fan of kids. I am not overly maternal, and I simply don't feel like being overly excited over kids. She said that this is not true because she saw that I am everything I claim not to be with my kids. Well, yes, because they are my own children. She also claims that everyone has been excluding her children. When I asked her how, she gave the same examples from above and claimed that my parents are more affectionate towards my kids. Yes, again, because they are their grandkids. In the end, we were not getting anywhere. So I told her, look, Natalie, you started dating my brother 1 year ago. My parents and I had a couple of meetings with you and your kids, and everyone was nice to all of you. I don't know what your problem is, but you need to speak to my brother. No one is excluding your kids, but you can't expect us to treat your kids the same as mine. This is never going to happen. My kids are my kids. They don't owe anything to yours, and you are not entitled to anything from us. Please solve these issues with my brother. My brother apologized for her and mentioned to me that she sounds like a mad woman, focused on the absurd differences she sees when it comes to our kids. He agrees our parents are not doing anything wrong, and that I am not doing anything wrong. He knows me, and he is aware I am not doing anything on purpose. He said that Natalie has been crying after our discussion, and while he agrees with me, he asked me if I can try being more empathetic towards her feelings. I told him that I am polite to her, but she seems manipulative. And if she doesn't want to hear the truth, she should not start this kind of discussion with me. My brother is lost. He does not know how to manage this madness, and I am honestly confused if I did anything wrong when speaking to her. Not the a-hole. She was hoping to leave them with you for date nights and weekends away. You just slaughtered that dream and she's not happy. Yeah, no, that's just never going to happen. If your brother chooses crazy, then he can be the one to deal with crazy. His questionable choices in partners are not your problem. Not the a-hole. I only like my kids and my bestie's kids. All other kids get on my nerves. I will be nice to them, but I'm not a let me hold the baby or host a playdate type of person. I will also not fawn over any goblins. Haha, same here, sis. My little goblins are enough for me. Not the a-hole. These boundaries are totally fair. Natalie seems to have unrealistic expectations, especially this early into the relationship. It's not cruel to protect your space or prioritize your own kids. Empathy doesn't mean sacrificing honesty or comfort. She may be hurting, but that doesn't make her entitled to your energy or parenting style. Thank you. The thing is, I don't get it. Why would you be hurt in her situation? My parents and I met her kids a bunch of times, but it is clear at this point we are some strangers to them, just like they are strangers to us. And being offended that you won't let the kids over without her? Is she planning on making you her babysitter? Maybe she was planning on sending them over for sleepovers. She shouldn't force things and should let the relationships grow organically. Your brother needs to manage her expectations. Not the a-hole, she is. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my mom meet my newborn after what she said at my wedding? I, 29 female, gave birth to my first child 2 weeks ago. It's been a whirlwind, exhausting but amazing. My husband, 31 male, and I are trying to set boundaries early, especially with our families, because both sides can be intense. Here's the issue. My mom, 56 female, hasn't met the baby yet, and I've told her she won't until further notice. She's livid, and now the entire extended family is calling me heartless. At our wedding last year, she made a toast during the reception. She said she was proud of me, but then turned to my husband and said, "Take good care of her. She's not always easy to love." People laughed nervously. I was mortified. When I confronted her later, she brushed it off as a joke and told me I was being too sensitive as always. That comment stuck with me, especially because growing up, she often belittled me, calling me too emotional, too dramatic, or a burden. Therapy helped me unpack a lot of it, but hearing those words again on my wedding day brought it all back. Now that I've had my baby, I've felt this overwhelming urge to protect her. Not just physically, but emotionally. I don't want someone around her who doesn't even respect me as a person, let alone as a mother. My mom has apologized technically, but it felt more like, "I'm sorry you were offended," than genuine remorse. She says I'm punishing her and being immature. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm letting old wounds cloud the present. But part of me feels like if I don't draw this line now, I never will. So, am I the a-hole for not letting my mom meet her grandchild because of something she said months ago? Now for the comments. Think of how you would feel if your mother said those things to your child, and then pat yourself on the back for nipping that problem in the bud early. Boundaries aren't punishment. They are a way to ensure emotional safety. I like to think of it as my boundaries are a punishment for you because they ensure my emotional safety regarding you. I've found the perpetrator always feels attacked anyway. Might as well land a direct hit. Not the a-hole. Real question is, why is it bad to punish her? She claims you are. Fine, you are. Mom's punishment for a lifetime of being a crappy parent is not getting to be a crappy grandparent. OP set a boundary after years of emotional wounds, and the wedding comment just reopened those. She isn't being heartless. She's protecting her peace. If a parent refuses to respect your value as a person, it's not cruel to draw a line for your child's sake. Not the a-hole. It appears that you aren't keeping your child away from her because of what she said at the wedding, but her ongoing process of abuse and emotional browbeating. You don't want to put your child through that. You know exactly how she is and how demeaning and cruel she is. So avoid the drama for yourself and your child. Last story. Am I the a-hole for canceling my financial support for my son's wedding after his fiancé catfished him to test his loyalty? My son, 23, got engaged a few months ago. Recently, he admitted to me that he had been texting with a girl he met on Tinder. That alone already shocked me. He's engaged, and that's obviously not acceptable behavior. But here's the twist. The girl on Tinder was actually his fiancé. She made a fake account to test whether he would stay loyal, and when he flirted back, she confronted him. Yes, what my son did was messed up. But creating a whole fake profile to trap your partner? That's manipulation. If you have to run sting operations to trust your fiancé, maybe you shouldn't be getting married. After learning this, I told my son I wouldn't be paying for the wedding anymore. I don't want to support a marriage that already starts with lies and games from both sides. Some people in the family say that I'm overreacting and punishing both of them. What's your opinion? Not the a-hole. Sorry, but your son being on a dating website while planning a wedding, while his fiancé was tricking him? Sorry, but that doesn't sound like a healthy relationship. And honestly, if the girl is smart, she should break it off, as it shows that your son isn't loyal, again, because of being on a dating app. Unless there is an agreement between them two that they are allowed to date outside of their relationship, this is a big red flag. Talk to your son about that. If he really wants to get married, because if he's disloyal now, why does he want to get married? A divorce is expensive and most of the time ends in worse condition for the husband. Yeah, not the a-hole, but your son is having doubts and he clearly is not opposed to cheating. She should have ended it. She obviously had a reason to suspect something was going on behind her back, and she was correct. Why is an engaged man on Tinder in the first place? Not the a-hole for withdrawing financial support, but they should not be getting married. You do seem to have more anger at the girlfriend than at your son, and that's an interesting take. If she was your daughter and told you she found evidence suggesting her fiancé was on Tinder looking for hookups, would you still think so harshly of her? I love how she catfished him, and it was the first time he did it. The poor innocent son. To think he isn't a cheater is ridiculous. Not the a-hole. But you seem more unhappy with her than him, which is unfortunate. I don't agree with how she did it, but she apparently had good cause. I doubt her catfish is amazingly the only girl he was contacting. He doesn't get to be offended. She caught him doing wrong. Sounds like he especially is not ready for a marriage. Yeah, I think the only a-hole point for OP is blaming the fiancé more than her son. Yes, the fiancé is crappy for doing a stupid test, but also was she wrong? He fell into the trap. None of this would have come out had he not been disloyal. Neither is ready for marriage.